Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we shall be taking a look at the good, the bad and the ugly of Pure Infantry Guard. I'm going to take you through step by step the strengths and weaknesses of this guard playstyle. So if you're someone who is interested in getting into the endless ways of conscripts, drive them men, drive them, then this will help you understand how the army plays and some of the limitations that it has. And of course, if you are on the other side of the field and you expect to face off against Pure Infantry Guard, this video might just help you understand how to beat them. And so, without further ado, let's fix bayonets, equip bayonets, and charge right into today's episode. Let us begin with a brief overview of what the hell Pure Infantry Guard even is. It's a pretty straightforward concept. It's a pretty brutally straightforward concept, if I'm going to be honest. It's the idea of overwhelming your opponents through sheer weight of bodies, through blood and bayonets. You are going to bring more men than they have bullets. It's a very attritional style of warfare. You might lose 10 to 20 guardsmen for every squad of Space Marines that you take out, but even with those horrendous loss kill ratios, you still end up destroying your opponent because you just always have more men to follow up. It doesn't matter how many losses you take, every loss that you have is not a big deal. Every model that your opponent loses is one less model that they have to hold back the tide. Now that's all well and good as a high level theory, and just the concept of Pure Infantry Guard is often one that guard players like to think about. They like the idea of just being able to send in the next wave, drive them, all that kind of good stuff. But how does this playstyle translate onto the tabletop? How effective is it? Well, in my opinion, Pure Infantry is one of the strongest ways to run your guard in competitive 40k right now. And historically, it's always been a bastion. It's always been a light in the darkness. No matter how bad an edition has been, no matter how unbalanced it has been, going back to the dark days of late 7th edition, or some of the crazy stuff that was happening at the end of 8th, beginning of 9th. No matter how skewed and squiffy the meta can get, I have always found I've been able to fall back on Pure Infantry Guard as a strong bastion, a reliable tactic that I can take into tournaments and always do okay with. And honestly, right now in 10th edition, I think it's a total sleeper. I think that there are a lot of people that are not prepared for what Pure Infantry can do. It is very good. But what makes it so strong? Firstly, it is surprisingly killy. Most Horde armies are melee Horde armies, and they don't have great damage output. If you look at Tyranid Swarm, for example, Termagants, their shooting isn't much to write home about. There are some ways you can boost it, but no one's really clamoring about the output of Termagants right now. Likewise with Hormagaunts, they've got the mass, but they don't have the damage. If you look at Orcs, sure, Orcs can do some decent damage output, but they're kind of melee reliant. The thing with Guard is we're a Horde, but we're a shooting Horde. So our damage output begins right from the beginning of the game. Because of the size of 40k boards these days, it's relatively easy to get into that close range. Even if it's just within 24 inches of each other, that's when the Guard infantry guns start unloading all your plasma, your grenade launcher, your las guns. You've got a lot of different weapons that are very effective from 24 inches and closer. And when things really start to get eye to eye, then the plasma pistols on the sergeants and also the melter guns start kicking in. And because of the way that 10th edition works with free war gear, now every guard unit is just armed to the gills with as much goodies as they can pack into there. You've got plasma pistols and power swords on every sergeant. You've got plasma guns, melter guns, grenade launchers in every single squad. Every officer that you've got can also bring a power fist or a power sword or a plasma pistol or a bolt gun. There's just loads and loads of special equipment in the guard right now, and it's all, or nearly all, ranged focused. So unlike a lot of hordes, which have either got the mass or the damage, but the damage is in combat, Guard have got the mass and we've got the damage, and that damage is always a threat. You can't try and kite away from the Guard. They're just going to walk after you, shooting you in the back. Another thing which makes Infantry Guard pretty potent these days is how durable it is. It's surprisingly tanky. Now, you have the natural ability to absorb blows, which comes from fielding so many models. It doesn't really matter if the Eldar come flying in and delete 20 or 60 guardsmen in your first turn. It really doesn't matter, because you've probably still got 180 left over. And if they've gone all in to do that kind of damage, well, those 180 guardsmen are going to start rapid firing all of those lasguns and special weapons that we talked about. And the Eldar are going to melt away quickly. And so you have the durability that comes from just having so many models. But individually, guardsmen can have quite a lot of buffs applied to them, which make them pretty tanky. So a guard is a 5+ save base. You then have the order that your officers can do, which is take cover, which gives you +1 to your save. It might say cover in the name, but it's not a cover save. It's +1 to your save characteristic. Interestingly, this also helps you in combat. So you have a 4+ save in shooting and combat. And then you can also benefit from regular cover. You can just have the benefit of cover on top of your order, which means that your standard guardsman, when in cover, which is very easy to achieve with all of the ruins and the dense terrain and the forest that we find ourselves playing on in competitive 40k, all of your guardsmen, the majority of that 200+ swarm of dudes that's coming at you, are going to have a 3+ armor save. This, combined with the fact that for a lot of armies and a lot of weapon systems, not all of them, but many, the AP has come down. What we've got is a situation where Guard are able to get a good save, and there are less things out there which are chopping through that. When I first started running Pro Infantry Guard, the AP system was totally different. And if someone hit you with a bolt gun, it was just AP 5 and it just killed you. Like I said, the system was different. So AP 5 under the 10 sounds crazy, right? But it just killed you. Now that same bolt gun shoots at my guardsman, I'm on a 3+ save. No AP on that thing. So it means that against small arms fire, your guardsmen are pretty good. And even if someone does start hitting you with those traditional anti-infantry weapons like heavy bolters, or they start spaffing loads of AP -1 shots into you, you're still on a 4+ armor save. And this is before we get to the other defensive buffs that you can put on here. You see, 10th edition has seen the return of Feel No Pain in a really big way. This is like a bonus save you get to take after you failed your armor save. And Guard have access to it in spades. Your basic platoon command squad can take a medipack, which not only gives the platoon command squad a 6+ Feel No Pain, but the unit that they are attached to. So you could have a big 25-man brick of guys, 20 guardsmen plus the command squad, all with that 3+ armor save, all with that 6+ Feel No Pain. Sure, you're fishing for 6s, but that's still 1/6 of the casualties that you were taking. You're not taking them anymore. Obviously, it's a little bit different than that because multi-damage does affect Feel No Pain, but you get what I'm saying here. You've then also got Cadian command squads, which are a separate data sheet, which can also take a medic and also give you a 6+ Feel No Pain. So that's 6 sources of Feel No Pain right there. 3 platoon, 3 Cadian. And then you've got Death Corps Marshals. These are kind of like a standalone officer, similar to the Cadian Castellum. And any unit that he joins, which can be Death Corps, Greek, or standard infantry squad, gets a 5+ feel no pain. Now, this one model does cost 60 points, the same as if you were taking a full command squad. But a 5+ feel no pain, that is wild. Between this ability to get a good armor save and having the feel no pain in the background as well, Guard Infantry is tough. And Pure Infantry Guard finally solves one of the biggest problems that has plagued Guard competitively for years, which is we can now take and hold objective. Previously, your infantry just came in little 10-man squads and you'd move them onto an objective. You might move 2 squads onto an objective and then they'd all just get cleared off. And you could never hold onto it long enough so that you could get those sweet, sweet primary points. But now you can happily move a blob of infantry onto an objective, and if you move 2 blobs on, there's just no way that they're shifting all of that, not with a huge concerted effort from your opponent. But even if they do manage to wipe out an infantry blob or 2 in a turn, it's not even a big deal, because Guard has access to one of the best stratagems in the game, which is reinforcements. It costs 2 command points, so it's pretty pricey, but if you're careful, you can afford this every battle round. And when one of your battle line units, when one of your regiment units is wiped out, before they are destroyed, you can spend 2 CP on them. So just before you remove that last model, you spend 2 CP on them, and then they're not destroyed. They go back into reserve, and it's treated like a fresh unit. You're sending in the next wave, so anything that had been on them, like Votan judgment tokens, whether that they all go, the unit dies and another one is spawned in your reserves, and it can come straight back onto the board. And because it goes into strategic reserves, this means that they can come in from any board edge from turn 3 onwards, and you can use the stratagem turn 4, turn 5, so it's an ever-present threat. Attention guardsmen, this is an announcement by the Departamento Militarum. Element Games is an official sponsor of the Mordianglory channel. They offer up to 20% off Warhammer 40k and 10% off Bolt Action and other game systems. Use the link down in the description to save money and support the channel. Anyone not using the link will be referred to the local commissariat. Also, don't forget that if you use referral code TIM3921, then you will receive double store credit, saving even more money on your future purchases. That's all for now. And it is a threat because these units are loaded up with special weapons. But it's not just the damage output which is a threat to an opponent's plans. It's how well Pure Infantry play the mission. 40k has been described to me, and I thought it was a really, really good saying. It was described to me once as a game of standing on circles, and he who can stand on the circles the best wins the games. And that is true, but when you boil it down, you're trying to push objectives onto these circles on the map, and if you control those circles, then you get all the primary points, your opponent doesn't get the primary points, and that can often lead to victory. And Pure Infantry Guard stands on circles better than anyone else, because not only do you just have so many bodies that you can push onto these objectives, not only are these bodies actually pretty durable, and they come back even if you kill them, so you can't even leave your home objective open because they're going to start coming in from all over. They're coming out the walls, man. But the amount of objective control that Pure Infantry has is just insane. Each block of 20 troopers, even with no support, is 40 OC. 40, not 1-4, 4-0. You can add a platoon command squad or Cadian command squad onto those units, and they have a standard in that command squad. Then each one of those guardsmen goes up to objective control 3, giving a 20-man blob with a command squad a total OC of 70. 3 on each trooper, so that's 60. 2 on each member of the command squad, that's another 10. 70. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, that 70 OC is ridiculous. You're never going to need all of that. So, well, hang on. It's not about the total OC. It's about the remnant OC. Imagine that your enemy has killed 18 of those guardsmen. He's nearly wiped out the entire unit. And he's got 5 Terminators standing proudly, 5 elite infantry standing resolutely on the objective. Surely he holds it, right? Because your command squad, let's say it's not quite on there, and you just got 2 little guardsmen that are just towing on. Surely he holds it, right? Nope. Those 2 guardsmen are 6 OC. Those Terminators are only 5 OC. Your opponent literally has to wipe you out to the last man, assuming that the command squad's not on there, to take the objective from you with the standard 5-man squad of elite infantry. And that's where the meta is right now. The meta is really focused on elite infantry. The meta is also really focused on vehicles and monsters. And so not only does the pure infantry play the standing on circles game very well, it also plays the anti-meta game. Because if someone's turned up expecting to face off against Deathwing Terminators, they're expecting to face off against big turreted monsters, they're expecting to face off against a Space Marine armored company or 13 baby knights, and they have taken all of this one-shot AT weapons, a dozen Bright Lances, and then they look at your army and they're like, yep, I've got a dozen Bright Lances. That is a dozen get dead guardsmen a turn, no problem. Unfortunately, even if every Bright Lance hits and kills every turn for 5 turns, that will only equate to 60 dead guardsmen. You've still got 180. And that is presuming that you do no casualties and none of those Bright Lances get taken out. But wait, there's more! Because your secondary game and your strategic flexibility is no slouch either. You've got access to all sorts of data sheets like Scions, which are infantry that can deep strike down and do some secondary objectives. You've got those reinforcements that can just come in the enemy's deployment zone after turn 3 and start getting behind enemy lines and stuff like that. It's remiss not to remember that you've got Kazakin as well. Kazakin, relatively affordable. 10 infantry, which can give themselves an order in reserve. Yes, that does work. Trust me, I did a whole video on it. So you've got all sorts of infantry that can go in reserve, or that can come back in reserve, or that can deep strike down, that can get that secondary game going. And then just looking big picture, there's a huge variety. There's a smorgasbord of guard infantry for you to pick from. You've got Catachans if you want really cheap scouting, screening infantry. They're going to push back enemy deep strikers, make it a nightmare for armies like Votan to put those customary 1,000 points they want to put in reserve every game. You've also got Cadians if you just want some cheap all-round troops that can bring a few special weapons, be a bit mobile, but if they die, you don't really mind. They don't need so much support. You've got your basic infantry squad that can bring some heavy weapons to the table. It's the only way you're going to get things like lance cannons or autocannons into your army. And then you've got the creme de la creme, the best infantry in the guide right now, and I would argue in the game, and that is the Death Corps of Krieg. These guys not only come with more special weapons than everyone else, they also come with their own inbuilt medipack, which doesn't give them a feel no pain, but does allow them to bring back D3 dead models a turn. So you can bring back D3, and you can have a 5 at feel no pain, and you can have a 3+ armor save with take cover and the benefit cover. So they're just mega durable. And then also they're no slouch in combat because they come with 2 free power swords. And then their ability, Grim Demeanor, is just next level because they get +1 to hit when they have taken 1 casualty. That's right, out of a 20-man blob, if 1 or more of them dies, the whole unit gets +1 to hit. So that means you can have your Kriegers with +1 to hit and also take cover for the benefit of the durability. Or, if you really want to get a bit cheesy pie, you can have a unit of Kriegers. You can have multiple units of Kriegers if they've taken some casualties. With +1 to hit from Grim Demeanor, which then stacks with the +1 to their ballistic skill from Take Aim, which means you can have your regular battle line infantry rocking around, hitting on 2s. It's really tasty. And on top of this, once the Kriegers have gone below half strength, and bear in mind the first 11 guys in a squad have just got lasguns, so really you don't mind if you're below half strength and it's just those bozos which have died. You get +1 to wound as well. It's kind of like Sisters of Battle, but it's deathcore, so eminently more spammable, and you get more special weapons. Now, you might be listening to this and thinking, Mordian, this all sounds amazing. Why don't I see everyone running pure infantry at every tournament? Well, unfortunately, nothing is perfect. And one of the big problems with pure infantry, just from a gameplay point of view, is that it's a SKU list. And so SKU lists are really, really good until suddenly they're not. And if you encounter something that can just hard counter you, it just happens to be perfectly designed to just carve through buttloads of infantry, then your list will fall apart quickly. It's the same with any SKU list out there. If you run pure tanks, it's great, you're going to overwhelm everyone with your armored might, but the moment someone turns up with enough anti-tank, that's it. All you're left over with is a bunch of flaming wrecks. And so any SKU list is going to have this problem fundamentally. On top of this, specifically to pure infantry guard, your long range firepower is lacking. You can take regular ass infantry squads and they can take las cannons. So if you took 6 units of those, you would end up with 12 las cannons in your army, which isn't so bad. But infantry squads with the heavy weapons, the regular guys hit on 4s, but the heavy weapon teams, they only hit on ballistic skill 5+. They've got heavy, so if they stay still, then they hit on a 4+. And if you tell them to take aim, they'll hit on a 3+, because heavy and take aim do stack. Yes, again, just trust me, it is a thing. Just trust me, again, I've done a whole video on this. But the problem is then you're staying still, and movement wins games. And infantry is perfectly maneuverable because you've got the move order, which allows you to move an extra 3 inches, and you can advance on top of that. So you can have guards that can go up to 15 inches in a turn. You've got things like Katjans, which can scout move and then move and all sorts of stuff. So maneuverability isn't a problem. But if you're taking a bunch of infantry squads and then you're stacking them with las cannons because you're like, look, I want to make sure I've got some decent anti-tank in here. If you're moving around with them, at best they're hitting on 4s because you're not staying still, so you're not getting heavy. You're just going from a 5+ ballistic skill to a 4+ ballistic skill with take aim. And a dozen las cannons is good on paper, but a dozen las cannons hitting on 4s? Yeah, no. That's not great. That's before you even encounter any -1 to hit modifiers that the opponent might have. So the long range anti-tank is a little lacking, but when you've got that many special weapons like melter guns and plasma guns, even if you are fishing for 5s and 6s, they will come up. So your close range firepower is fine. Melter guns fine. Plasma fine. No problem with that. Grenade launcher is great. Plasma pistols great. It's just the long range stuff. The lance cannons, the auto cannons, you won't have many in your army, and those you do have aren't going to hit very well. But the real problem with pure infantry guard, the ugly as it were, it's nothing to do with the gameplay, it's the real world logistics. Firstly, you need a lot of models. I would say if you're thinking of going pure infantry guard and you want to do this long term, you will need a minimum of about 300 models. This is because the army itself, the list that you're going to be taking to the tabletop, is going to have about 240 to 250 models. That includes all of your battle line and any heavy weapon squads, officers, and command squads that you might be taking. But what happens when the meta shifts? What happens when plasma guns are out and melter guns are in? Well, now I need to go and get a bunch of extra melter guns. What happens when suddenly Krieg aren't the best and it's all about the infantry squads, and now you need to go and get a bunch of autocannons because you built yours with las cannons and now they're not quite as good now? That's another bunch of models you need to get. There's a huge amount of variety in pure infantry guard, but that means there's a huge amount of options, there's a huge amount of levers that GW can pull to make different options better. And if you want to be playing competitively, you want to be taking the most efficient list, like I said, it's a minimum of 300 infantry. I wouldn't be surprised if you need to cover every eventuality, all the different special weapons, you need 350, 400 models. Even with like magnetizing stuff, that's a lot of magnetization you're going to have to do. That's a lot of extra weapons and arms you're going to have to paint. It doesn't get any easier with magnetizing. You still need to do all that extra stuff to just cover your ass. So collecting a Pure Infantry Guard army is a bit of a problem. And of course, having that many models is going to be a bit of a strain on your wallet, as it were. Financially, Pure Infantry Guard is just not viable for many players because it will cost you, especially if you get it all from GW, just hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Even with alternative third-party models where you can get like 30 infantry for the price of 10 GW ones, it's still going to cost you several £100s just for the models alone. And then even with 3D printing, it's still going to cost you a decent amount to get all those models. And then there's all the money you've got to spend on the painting, whether you paint it yourself, at which point there's a huge time investment, as well as the money you've got to put towards the painting supplies, or you get someone else to paint it for you, like a commission painter. Well, they're going to paint you 300, 400 guard infantry. They're going to charge you a pretty penny to do that. So not only is getting all the models together that you need a bit of a chore, but it is going to cost you to do that as well. And finally, there's just piloting that many models. A list that's that big with so many moving parts. In a competitive game, you have 3 hours for the battle, and there are chess clocks involved. Not every game will have a chess clock, but if you rock up with 240 models or more, your opponent is going to pull out a chess clock if they've got one, slap it down, just insist on using it. And they are absolutely in their right to do that. And if you are not well practiced, it's not an easy thing just to rock up with Pure Infantry Guard with 0 practice. You need to be practiced. You need to be prepared. You need to have all your movement trays, all your aids that can help you move quickly. Have your dice ready, counted out, so you can just pick up the dice and roll them straight. Have a dice tray so you're not scrabbling around. There's all sorts of extra things that go into making sure that you don't time out, because if you don't do this, you will literally run out of time in the first turn or two. But having said all that, I still think that Pure Infantry Guard is phenomenally powerful right now. I think it has great damage output thanks to all the free war gear. It is more durable than it has ever been before, and it is acutely anti-meta. If you can resolve the issues that are within your control, practice, 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 so you're lightning fast whilst you're moving things around. Invest in dice trays and in movement trays so that you can just operate the list seamlessly, then I think it is a tournament winner. I think it does have that potential. It has the primary game locked down, and it is more than capable of scoring points on secondaries as well. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Are you a fan of Pure Infantry Guard, and do you think it has what it takes to get the gold? Or do you think there's a better way of running Guard in 10th edition? If you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button. It really does help. I don't understand how the mysterious YouTube algorithm works, but I know it's a little bit like the Golden Throne. Instead of feeding it Psycho Souls, you feed it likes. And if you never want to miss an episode, don't forget to subscribe as well. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and Patreons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordy and Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last, but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, and they have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a big shout out to Bon Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Thank you guys so much. Your incredible generosity is a massive part of how I'm able to do Mordy and Glory full time, and it is a big driving force behind the channel. But I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.